Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Grey Matter Talks Tech, your go-to podcast for conversations on tech trends, insights, and stories. In this episode, we're going to be speaking to Eduardo Andrade from KMSS Software Systems Limited. We'll dive into both his career and his company's journey, the tools that have shaped his development projects, challenges, and trends. Hi, Eduardo. Thanks for joining us on the podcast.
Hello, thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
Can you tell us a bit more about who you are, your role with KM Software Systems, and your career journey over the years?
Absolutely. Well, my name is Eduardo Andrade. I'm the managing director of KM Software Systems. My background is actually in software development. I started coding over 30 years ago, back when most companies used MS-DOS. In those early days, I was building applications using tools like Clipper, DBase, and Turbo Pascal, which then led me to Delphi. So later on, I moved into Delphi from the very first version, and that became the main developed platform throughout my career. That was a brand new world for me. I was still a teenager, suddenly building an application that actually ran on Windows. Delphi was just a breeze to learn, and it allowed me to get things done incredibly quickly while still building serious software, which was a great thing. I joined this company in 2014 as a Delphi developer, and over the years, I worked my way through the business into management. So today, I own the business. So my role is much more focused now in leadership strategy, growing the business. But I still genuinely enjoy coding. I think every developer does, and staying close to the technical side. Yeah. I think that developer mindset really helps when leading a software company because you understand both the technology and the people building it. You speak the same language. So KMSS is still very much a family business at heart. We started very small, which I think gives us a different culture and a closer relationship with both our team and our customers. But at the same time, we've grown internationally over the years and operate now in the UK and India and Portugal. And we are preparing to open in Brazil. So it's been very exciting to see a company with family values grow into a global software business.
That's really good. Thanks, Andrade. What exactly do KM Software Systems create?
We create software for box manufacturers. It's extremely specific, so it's an application that only suits the packaging manufacturing industry. So our main product is called SPOX, is a sheet plant operation control system, and it evolved for more than 30 years. It started in DOS and was later migrated to Delphi back in the 90s. And is still, Delphi is still what's everything behind our software. And what makes us different is that we are focused in one industry only. We don't try to have a fits everything ERP, but all our code, our business logic is driven to packaging companies. Now, software runs the entire factory operation. It manages every single process from the first inquiry from the customer to the whole manufacturing, production, scheduling, and invoicing.
Thanks, Edward. So, are there any particular problems that your software solves for your customers?
The problems we solve are around efficiency, visibility, and control. Because packaging manufacturing can be extremely fast-paced and complex, especially when you're dealing with custom products, tight deadlines, raw material management, and some companies still do it on paper or on Excel. And things they can lose money or at least not make as much money as they could due to inefficiencies. Our system runs in some of the biggest packaging manufacturers in the UK and Europe. So we help them manage and control the critical day-to-day operations across their factories. Some of them working 24/7, and so it is a mission-critical software running in some of these companies for over 30 years. Some of them use our software since the very first version.
So could you explain the software that's been built and how it stands out?
Our software, from a developer's perspective, I think what makes it interesting is that it's a large-scale business application that has continuously evolved over more than 30 years without being rewritten from scratch. Apart from that, moving from that very first MS-DOS to Windows Delphi version, since then the application kept growing and evolving. And imagine with the amount of developers that have written code in this application for 30 years, it's a big challenge, but it's very interesting. Technically, it's a very deep system with a huge amount of business logic accumulated over decades. We're talking about real-time production environments where reliability and performance, they matter a lot. The software integrated factory equipment, external systems, APIs, barcode systems, and lots of new web technologies. Well, one thing I find interesting is that Delphi has allowed us to maintain a very productive development environment while still delivering native performance and stability. It's probably not the trendiest stack people talk about, but for large desktop like ours, it's incredibly solid for us. And I also say that one of our strengths is that we are pragmatic about technology. We do not adopt new tools just because they're fashionable or because everybody talks about them. We focus on what delivers reliability, maintainability, and value to our customers. And I think developers sometimes underestimate how important that mindset becomes when you're maintaining a software that business depend on every single day.
What have been some of your biggest technical challenges to date, and how have you overcome them?
One of our biggest challenges, and recently, was bringing the software to the web. This is quite a trend, but that is not just a trend. It's something that came to stay. People want to use APIs. People want to use the software in the cloud. And our software was born as a VCL application, and that's what it still is. And until now, it was just a Delphi environment, purely so. When people started asking for APIs and for mostly websites, we have to think, how can we build this stack now? All we know is Delphi and Delphi developers. We will have to hire a new set of developers that work in one of the many frameworks available for the web, and just have two different people talking to each other. And another challenge we faced was cultural as much more as technical, because traditionally everyone was a Delphi developer working in the same environment, and speaking the same technical language. Moving towards web development meant accepting that we could end up with completely different skill sets within the team, and we had to think carefully about how developers would collaborate and communicate effectively. Our approach was, can we do it in Delphi? Can Delphi do it? So we went to the market to see what was available, and amongst the tools that were there, we decided for TMS Web Core. That turned out to be a really important decision for us because it allowed our existing Delphi developers to transition into web development much more naturally without necessarily learning a new language. So they continue work from the RAD Studio IDE they've already know, and they development model felt familiar, almost like building a VCL application, but in this case, you're building a web application. And that massively reduced the learning curve and helped the team embrace the transition rather than resisting it. What was really rewarding is that the developers reacted very positively to it. Instead of feeling that the existing experience was becoming obsolete, they gained a whole new skill set while still building on top of the knowledge they already had. I think that made the whole modernization journey much smoother for the company.
Are there any other challenges you faced over the years?
Yes, definitely. One of our biggest challenges, probably what that many companies using Delphi can relate to. The developer pool is aging, and there simply aren't enough new developers coming into the language. For years, finding experienced developers was extremely difficult and still is. And that was starting to become a real business risk for us. We had strong opportunities to grow, but without developers, growth becomes very hard. You can have customers, ideas, projects, everything ready to go, funding, but if you can't build and support the software, you eventually stagnate. And that's what we were going towards. That's when we decided to think outside the box, pun intended. Instead of limiting ourselves geographically, we started thinking worldwide, looking for English-speaking Delphi developers. Where can we find them? Where are they? Or do they exist? And actually, yes, they did. Our very first investment was in India, and we opened our first office in India, recruited some strong senior developers, and then started training graduates internally in Delphi and in our development practices and in learning our software. And that approach worked incredibly well. We now have a consistent pipeline of young developers learning Delphi alongside experienced senior and mid-level developers mentoring them. And since then, we've expanded further to another office in India, an office in Portugal, and we are now preparing to also open in Brazil. For us, this isn't just about recruitment, it's about long-term sustainability. We want to build an environment where Delphi development continues to grow rather than slowly disappear. And I think it also sends a very clear message to developers. We have absolutely no intention of ever moving away from Delphi. We believe it's still a strong technology. And for developers who are willing to learn it, there are real opportunities for a very stable and long-term career.
So, what's next for KM Software Systems? Any up and coming plans?
Yes, one of our biggest plans is around a corrugator scheduling. And from a developer's perspective, then we try to put it into not too much technical packaging words. Our system right now, what we do is converting cardboard into boxes. But this new project moves us to a completely new world. A corrugator is an enormous industrial machine that transforms paper into cardboard. And scheduling it is incredibly complex. So from a software engineering point of view, it becomes a giant optimization problem. You're dealing with the sequencing, with everything that we didn't think about before, that was not part of our current and existing business logic. So everybody needs to learn new skills, learn how that machine works, and how we can do that. So for us as a company, it's also a huge step forward. Projects like this push the team technically and creates opportunities for developers to work on genuinely difficult engineering problems rather than just maintaining the business forms and reports and what is already there. So it's exactly the type of work that keeps software engineering interesting after decades in the industry.
So, are there any also trends, obviously, in development that you find interesting? Any like cloud technology that you're really excited about for the future?
Definitely, I would say AI.
Mm.
Yeah, at the moment, it's impossible to ignore this. What everybody is talking about. Our customers are increasingly asking how AI can help their businesses. How can they make things faster? How can they automate processes? So in our case, that's what they want to do: analyze data, ask their system, how are my sales last month, and who are my best customers, just asking that LLM instead of running a report. And that's exactly what we're doing. We are adding AI to our application so the customer can just choose their preferred LLM and they can talk to their software. But what's also been fascinating is how AI has changed software development as well. We started using AI tools internally, and it's became a game changer for productivity. At first, some developers were understandably concerned about AI replacing their jobs. Lots of people talk to a lot about it, but very quickly people realize that AI works much better as an assistant than as a replacement. It's another tool in the toolbox. It helps developers move faster, automate repetitive tasks, generate ideas, and spend more time focusing on an architecture, on the business logic, on solving problems. The areas where human experience and judgment really matter. So we probably saved several times and save several times of several hours every day because of AI assisted development. And that said, I think it's really important to approach AI responsibly. We made a strong point to our developers that the developer is still responsible for their code. AI is not the engineer, and I don't think, at least in our case, it will ever be. It's the assistant. The developer still needs to understand their codes, review it properly, think critically, and apply their real engineering judgment. I
Mm.
think the companies that succeed with AI will be the ones that use it to empower developers other than blindly depend on them or even try to replace them.
Thanks, Eduardo. That's a really, really good answer. So, how obviously working with Grey Matter, how has this partnership helped you over the years? Obviously, it's been quite a few years we've now been doing with this.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Yes. It's been a very good partnership. Grey Matter has been an important partner for us for many years, and they've essentially been our bridge to Embarcadero. And the support they provided over the years have been incredibly valuable for the business.
Mm,
Because our platform is built around both Delphi and Interbase, licensing is a very important part of our operation. We regularly need new Interbase licenses for new customers or additional licenses as our customers grow, as well as Delphi licenses as well for our development teams. And having a
mm,
partner that understands our environment and can respond quickly really makes the difference. It's also been valuable is the relationship side of the partnership.
mm,
We attend a lot of the events organized by Grey Matter and often bring members of our development team with us. For
mm,
developers, those events are great because they're not just about products, they're about networking, learning, discovering new tools and ideas,
mm.
talking to fellow developers, and staying connected with the wider community. So when you work in a specialized ecosystem like Delphi, having strong partners and an active community around you becomes incredibly important. Grey
Mm.
Matter has played a big part in that for us.
Thank you for that, Eduardo. But I think what you said about AI is crucial about the fact is the way it can help developers, about how they can increase their productivity. And it said it's just what you're, and it's very exciting the way that you're really looking forward to because a lot of developers are very anti AI.
Yeah, Uh, one good example, I run a 1 hour session with the entire development team once a week to look at something in codes. Normally, something more complex that is someone is struggling to find the answer to it. And as we introduce AI, I try to show them how to do that with AI. They're talking about an application that has millions and millions of lines of code. And one of these days, there was an issue with invoicing that yes, we could investigate and it would take a good couple of hours to get to the answer. But we just opened VS Code, put our LLM, and said, where is this value coming from? And
Yeah.
in a couple of minutes, it says, it's in this unit, this line, these are the values it uses, and that's why the value returns this.
Mm.
And we went there and solved our problem. I'm not sure AI would be able to understand the full logic because it doesn't have the full context. But we know the logic.
Yeah.
So, but it pointed us exactly where we needed to be and saved us a couple of hours of following codes line by line. Let me see what's the value in here. Now the value changed. It did that for us. It says from clicking this button until getting to that point, your value went from this to this because of these reasons. That's your calculation.
So I mean, obviously it's saving you like hours per day. I said, this means it's just like speeding up your actual time you take to put out updates and things like that on the software. And also, I mean, how much do you reckon that AI is going to be writing in the future? Do you, and obviously, I don't know how much code it's probably doing at the moment, but does it, do you predict it's going to be more and more AI in the future?
It will be. It will be a lot more. In our case, I do hope it will be ever more and more. Everything repetitive. When you
Mm,
start a project, if you get the documentation of an API and say, write me the connection to the API, all the endpoints, and get me to the point that I can start sending requests, that will be done in minutes.
yeah,
And the developer would take hours to do that, which is a knowledge they already have. They know exactly what they're doing. Just takes time because these things takes time. You need to write it line by line, even in a RAD environment. You still need to
yeah.
write lots of lines and tests and everything. So that automation and gives to the developer, here is your API, here is your endpoints, now do your magic. Now do what you do
Yeah.
best.
I think that's really interesting. The fact is that you're embracing AI so freely. I think obviously the fact is a lot of companies, it's an example to a lot of companies probably who are probably a little bit more resistant to it than you have been.
Well, yeah, thank you. I think it's the future. We cannot go against the major trends. I'm okay in not doing some of the things that everybody thinks you should be going. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing Delphi.
Yeah.
Um, and that's a good thing to say. This is the technology I want to use, and I know why I want to use it. It's modern. It's well maintained,
Mm.
and that's where I want to invest. But a different thing is looking at the trends that came to stay and refusing to do it. That can have economical consequences, and even for
Yeah.
developers.
Yeah.
I heard of developers who say, well, I will never use it because I will no longer be a developer. Someone in a forum called said we are becoming AI babysitters. We are
Yeah.
just there to watch their code. It's not, absolutely not. The expertise of a great Delphi developer cannot be replaced.
Yeah. I said you still need to understand the code, don't you? You still need to know exactly what it's doing, and then obviously make sure you know that if it's going to work or not,
Yeah.
what's been done. So yeah.
You need to be good at prompting as well because AI is just following your orders and
Yeah.
trying to please you, which is a massive problem that we need to
Yeah.
deal with. If you ask for something in the wrong way, it will give you a result.
Mm.
And it's up to you to understand that I maybe didn't ask the question right, and now I have something that does not work. But it's always all driven by the developer himself.
Yeah. Thanks, Eduardo. That's really useful to add that bit in, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Finally, what advice would you give to developers building and scaling their own software today?
My biggest advice to developers building a long-term applications is keep your technology stack moving forward, even if it's uncomfortable.
Mm.
In the Delphi world, especially, there are still a huge number of systems running on very old versions, and honestly, I completely understand why.
Mm.
A Delphi 7 application brought to 13.1 would be very painful.
Yeah.
We went through similar challenges ourselves. Upgrading large enterprise systems is never easy. You have to deal with third-party components that don't exist anymore, and that would be difficult to rewrite, or probably not even in open codes, deprecated tools, compatibility issues, and years of accumulated technical debts. But the reality is, the longer you leave it, the harder and more expensive it will become. Eventually, you reach a point and modernizing becomes a major project instead of a manageable process. I also think customers notice more than developers sometimes realize. Even if the core functionality is excellent, users still expect the software to feel modern, responsive, actively maintained. Keeping your platform updated gives customers confidence that the product has a future, and that increases the value of it as well, at least the perceived value of it. The other thing I would say is not to become too obsessed with trends. Technology changes constantly, and there is always a new framework or buzzword every single year. Focus
Mm.
on building software that solves real problems reliably and can still be maintained for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. Longevity in software engineering is actually very underrated achievement.
I'm just going to add another question in, if that's all right.
Yeah.
So, Eduardo, you mentioned that obviously you now have teams in both the UK and in India, and also you're now expanding to Brazil. How do you collaborate across these different teams?
Yeah, right. Because it's only UK, Portugal, and India.
Mm.
It's not as difficult as it will be when you add Brazil to the equation. I go to India many times and I spend time with the team in there, and I think it's
Mhm.
very important for them to fully understand who we are instead of this is just a remote role working for a British company. There are cultural differences that we had to navigate. So there were lots of bumps on the way. We are way advanced in that road now, so we seem to now know exactly what we are doing.
Yeah.
But it is very rewarding. It's a great relationship. The Portuguese team as well, learning how to deal with the UK and with India.
Yeah.
Yeah, when Brazil comes into the equation, the time zone difference, which actually is one of the reasons as well for hiring in Brazil, because India is ahead of us, Brazil is behind of us. So we will have much more hours of development done and developers available for much longer. But that can create an issue with communicating between them. There won't be much of an overlap between the Brazilian and the Indian developers, and we will have to solve it as well because we do like and need to work as a big team, as if we were here in the office all working together instead of just offices spread everywhere.
Do you feel that more companies should look to expand their teams across the world for development, but also for continuity for customers?
Definitely. We have also the plan on looking for customers around all over Europe and the rest of the world. It's not the time yet because we are way too busy in the UK. But I believe that hiring internationally is very valuable for every company and for British companies even more, which then brings on one great advice for Brazilian developers: invest in your English, because that will get them. Brazil is very strong in Delphi, but it's not very easy to find an English speaker because the country is self-sufficient. That's not even a criticism. It is a massive country with a great number of companies that can buy their products. But for anything as the professional development, if you are fluent in English, then you can reach all these markets. And these companies will feel more confident in seeking for developers in those countries.
Thanks very much.
Thank you, Robin.
For those listening, if you've enjoyed this episode, please make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on the rest of our Developer Stories season. We're inviting more developers from across the community to tell us about their apps they're creating and the technologies shaping the future of software. To find more about how Grey Matter supports developers and businesses like yours with software, cloud and licensing expertise, head to greymatter.com. If you have any questions for us, send us an email to our team on info@greymatter.com, and thank you for listening.